Welcome to our webinar series about capital campaigns. This series of 3 webinars is brought to you by Library Strategies. And Library Strategies has a number of services which we provide to libraries and library organizations, including strategic planning, development planning. We conduct feasibility studies and help libraries conduct capital campaigns. We work with libraries to clarify roles about their friends and foundation. We do facilities planning, help with staffing, advocacy training, and board development, and a whole host of other special projects that we've done over the last 10 years that Library Strategies has been in existence. I'm Pearson, and for the past 25 years, I've been the president of the Friends of the St. Paul Public Library. The Friends is the library foundation for the St. Paul Public Library. In addition to my job as the head of the Friends, I also do consulting with Library Strategies, and have been doing that consulting ever since Library Strategies started as a part of our organization 10 years ago.
And I'm Karen Rose. I've been with Library Strategies for 3 years as a principal and lead consultant, and I have over 15 years of experience in fundraising for mostly nonprofit organizations and educational institutions. I also have an extensive background working with public-private partnerships, so all of which lend itself to working with libraries. Most capital campaigns involve some combination of public and private support. There is no formula that's consistent across libraries. It's always very different. The public support side usually includes city, county, or state bonding, or funds that are currently available that have been set aside. There's typically a referendum involved, and the timing around referendums is important to consider when you're doing a capital campaign. We typically advocate that you have that referendum passed and over with by the time you start thinking about a capital campaign. Some people have been known to flip that and try to use the capital campaign feasibility study to influence referendums, and we have found that that generally is not advisable. It makes the feasibility study difficult if the project has the potential for not passing. The other piece is private support, which includes gifts from individuals, foundations, and corporations. We should also note that the majority of your major gifts will come from individuals and less of corporations, and finally the least is foundations. A lot of people think that there are foundations issuing grants to libraries. There are some, but they're far and few between. A capital campaign is a journey to a new library. We have created this series to help you get from point A to your final library building. So the series includes this one, which is about pre-campaign preparations. There's quite a bit of work that you need to line up to prepare your organization for an eventual capital campaign. The second series will be on feasibility studies, and the final will be on capital campaign planning and management.
When we say it's a journey, it's important to understand that this journey is not a short one. It could take anywhere up to 4 years for the entire portion of the campaign to complete itself. We are going to talk about pre-campaign activities that you'll be wanting to do to get your library prepared to be going forward with the campaign. That could be anywhere from 1 to 2 years. There will be a feasibility study needed. We'll talk a little bit more about what a feasibility study is, which could be anywhere from 3 to 6 months. You'll want to recruit leadership for your campaign. It's going to involve bringing in new people beyond what the board of your fundraising organization currently has. There will be some campaign planning and training that goes on with that new group. And then we'll divide the fundraising into 2 separate phases. The quiet phase, when you really aren't letting the entire community know that you're fundraising, and that's the phase in which you're going to raise the vast majority of your funds. And then a public phase, when you're going to have people from the entire community wanting to take part and being able to donate to the campaign.
So the first step that you need to prepare your organization for is the establishment of a 501c3 entity. Typically, that is either a Friends or a foundation organization. Some libraries have a Friends in existence. They may need to create a foundation for a capital campaign, or the Friends itself could provide that 501c3 status. Next, you'll want to recruit a fundraising board for that Friends or foundation. It's very important that you create a leadership team on that committee that has fundraising experience, someone that is visible and respected and has probably, hopefully, campaign experience under their belt already. They will be looked to for leadership. They will be looked to for validation of the campaign itself. They will elevate the campaign in the eyes of the community members. So it's very important to spend the time to recruit people to your board before you ever start the campaign so that they're prepared to start with both feet on the ground when the campaign is ready to launch. Also, during this period of pre-campaign preparation, it might be a good idea to rebrand and increase your marketing for the library. Sometimes libraries will need to rebrand their library to change the mindset of the community from a traditional view of a library as a repository of books, and who needs that anyway, to an exciting place where community gathers, where new technology is experienced with, where people come to share and create and learn together. So sometimes you need to make that effort for rebranding, and that will manifest in potentially a new mission statement. It could also influence how you talk about us. What do we do? What's our purpose in the community? It might mean you refresh the way you talk about your services. It also provides a guideline for all future communications and helps you develop a social media and a print strategy that'll be consistent. All of those are important to start paving the way for people to understand the library in a new way and understand it in a way that they would want to offer their private support to.
The pre-campaign preparation time is also a really good opportunity to nurture some key relationships that you may have within your community. For instance, if you've already been doing annual fundraising, you have a list of current donors who are willing to support the library and its special programs. This is an opportunity to get them to really feel attached to you so that during a capital campaign, we're going to be going to those current donors and asking them for much larger gifts for this one-time special building project. We want to get community leaders involved with the library, people who have influence in the community who will be able to really talk positively about your capital campaign. And again, many of these people may not be making contributions per se, but it's just building the awareness in the community and the reputation of the library. Your Rotary, Chamber of Commerce, these groups often have some of the community's most important civic leaders, and it's important to get in front of them to talk about what the library of today is and to get them understanding so that when they hear about the capital campaign, they'll be enthusiastic. Other arts and cultural organizations are also important in that they'll be oftentimes doing their own capital campaigns. So being aware of some of those timelines and who they'll be approaching and talking about how we collaborate what we do at the library in the areas of arts and culture. And finally, of course, our elected officials. These are going to be the people who will be approving the public portion of your project, which is extremely important. So having a positive relationship with elected officials is so important on an ongoing basis. So we also want to do what we call create a culture of fundraising. Oftentimes libraries have not had a culture of fundraising. We've viewed ourselves as institutions that only have public funding. So part of creating that culture of fundraising is first developing an annual appeal. We say that the annual appeal is really the cornerstone of fundraising for any institution, including the library. Again, it's something that's done every single year. It's done to show how people can support you and the many things that you do that are so exciting. And the hope is that most of the contributions coming in an annual appeal are going to be unrestricted contributions. We also, from time to time, in our libraries will want to be raising money for special projects. And again, this goes back to that perception of we want to make people realize that libraries are more than just a collection of books. We want to show them the very unique and special things that happen in libraries every single day, and these create some great fundraising opportunities. We don't want to miss out on an opportunity also of planned giving. Unfortunately, many of the supporters and donors to libraries are older, and when those individuals die, we're losing a very large portion of our support for the library. And we know that younger donors, until they've really made more of a place for themselves in the community, may not be able to give at the level of the older donors. So it's really critical that when you are nurturing these older individuals in your donor base, that you also ask them to consider making a planned gift to your institution. This is also a great way to develop an endowment fund. Endowments are very difficult to raise, but you can have a policy that every gift that you receive as a planned gift will go into endowment. And really, the donors really appreciate that. They like to know that their money is not going to be spent outright, but is going to be around in perpetuity. And then finally, special events. And special events are somewhat of a double-edged sword. I usually advise a library friends or foundation group to not take on a special event immediately if they've just started their fundraising. It's something that requires a fair number of volunteers. You have to be quite organized, and it probably makes more sense to have had successful fundraising for several years before you jump into special events. Because in many cases, special events create awareness, but not necessarily raise money. So again, during this phase, we want to continue to engage the community. One way to do that is a strategic planning process that really brings in stakeholders from your community to look at what is the library needing to do to really fully engage members of the community. What does the community want and expect from the library? A space needs assessment, of course, is critical before you move into actual design process and figuring out just exactly how much space is needed, what it will look like, what the cost is going to be. All of those can happen in the pre-campaign preparation phase. And finally, advocacy. Advocacy is something that every library, friends or foundation should be doing every single year. You want to keep the library's needs in front of your elected officials at all times. And it's going to be even more important when it comes to coming up with a large amount of money for a capital project.
This concludes the first part of our series on capital campaigns. Please find part 2 and 3 on our website. Part 2 is feasibility studies, part 3 is campaign planning and management. You can also find more resources at librarystrategiesconsulting.org or find us on Facebook or Twitter. Thank you for joining us on this first part of our series. Check out parts 2 and 3 on our website.